Hi everyone, I'm Kate McGlone, Showroom Design Lead at Winning. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm about to invite in Darren and Simona from Minosa, who are going to be discussing bespoke kitchen inspiration. So any questions that you might have, if you're home renovating, if you're working with a designer at the moment, certainly comment with your questions and we will give you some feedback. So I'm just going to invite in Minosa now. And here they are. Joining. It's awesome to have everybody on. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Dan.
Hi. How you going, Kate?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Pleasure.
We've got an awesome crowd already, so that's fantastic. So I've given a little introduction to let everyone know you're here.
What else do you do on a rainy evening in Sydney?
I know. I was just about to start by saying, you know, what a world we're living in now, and how much it's changed. And I know that you guys have been doing everything from home renovations, homeschooling, working remotely. So on top of all your design expertise, I think there's a wealth of all sorts of things that you have to add. So as a starting point, it would be fantastic to sort of, you know, what is your feedback on how you think that the current world that we're living in has impacted kitchen design?
Oh, I think, firstly to touch on the whole, you know, ultimately we're business owners. We employ 6 staff. We have 2 young children. We've literally just moved into our own home, which is not quite complete. So we've been renovators, we've been project managers, we're obviously running our studio, working remotely, homeschooling. It's been a like a lot of people that are joining in tonight. I'm sure they've got
busy.
Very relatable. I mean, if you're doing it all, you really are. So I'm sure people certainly find that very relatable.
So I think we've seen a shift. Really, I think we're still really starting to realise how unfriendly our homes are. They're not pandemic, you know, positive, and we're all sitting around in a space. So I think we've all been challenged. There's no doubt about it, and there is change coming.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the inquiries over the last month have been unbelievable, and people are ready. They're ready to actually now concentrate on improving their lives, and most often the conversation starts at the kitchen and how, you know, they don't know if this is ever going to happen again. So it's kind of like, okay, we've got a future proof now. We're ready to knuckle down and get stuck into designing life better.
And I think we think, you know, how does that happen, Kate? You know, like already we in the kitchen, what do we do in the kitchen? We cook, we prepare, we entertain, we chat, we laugh, we dance, we cry, we do so many things in the kitchen. We do so many things in the kitchen already. And now all of a sudden we've got to throw in homeschooling, parenting, working, Zooming, you know, Google Hangouts, all this sort of stuff. So I think
and it's got to look good.
Exactly. That's it. We've thankfully had the Zoom chat drop-ins, which I think have been quite popular for those that haven't gotten around to their kitchen and home renos and redecorating. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the kitchen already in any other day is the heart of the home. And like you said, you might be working there on a laptop, or, you know, if the kids are at home doing homeschool, certainly more people, more activity, which is, you'll notice anything that's not working in your kitchen, put it that way.
Yeah, this is the time, you know, everybody's there together. So I think what's going to change, I think kitchens and living rooms more so, because I don't think it's just a kitchen anymore. You know, in the 80s, the wall came down and we did this open plan thing, and Australia really adapted to that. But now here we are in 2020, and it's not open plan anymore. It's integrated living. So it's more, how are we going to integrate all of the elements that we need for the household members, you know, which usually it's 2 or it's 4 or it's 5 members of the family. So how do we integrate all that, and how do we make it not look like a kitchen? I think that's really the challenge moving forward.
Absolutely. And we've just had a fantastic question come through from Will. Thank you for putting a question through. Their question is, when you go to design a home, is the kitchen one of the first things that comes to mind? You know, are you designing around a kitchen? Is that something that comes later in the process?
For us, Darren and my experience lies first and foremost in kitchens. That's our passion, and that's our history. So for us and our work values, our life values, it's all based around that part of the home. So and it's not for us. It's never really truly just a kitchen. It's a family living area. So we do start there most times, don't we?
Well, it depends what we're looking at. So if we're looking at a renovation, most people they'll come to you for the bathroom or they'll focus on the kitchen. If it's a new build, it's a different kettle of fish altogether, because the living room is the focus. You know, there's the outdoor living, the indoor living, there's the lounge room, there's the kitchen, there's the everyday eating at the breakfast bar, there's the how do we prep food, where do we put the kids' bags, where do we do the shopping. So
lots of things to consider.
If it's a new build, you're designing life better. You're coming into this to go, hey, I'm building a better life. I'm designing a better life. When it's a renovation, it's a little bit different because you're working within parameters and it's very specific, room specific. New builds, definitely that's where the focus is. What's happening now, it's that and the parents' retreat. They're the two areas because, let's face it, the parents need a retreat.
Absolutely. A little bit of separation from life all morphed into one. So that's some brilliant advice. And then the next question that's come through from Hannah is, what is your opinion on mixing more classic with modern elements?
We love it.
We love it.
We love it.
Look, for us, that's eclectic, and that's expressing your own style. So if you can do that and pull it off, well, hats off to you. I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
So the more quirk, the better for us.
Yeah, we're complete romantics when it comes to that. Like, we're sitting here now in a 1920s bungalow that we fell in love with the facade of the building and the history of it, and we've then done something contemporary off it. And more over the last probably 5 to 6 years, we've done more work in heritage listed homes where you get the ability to take something that has so much history, but obviously we can't live the way we did in 1920 because 100 years passed, and there's so many things we've learned about our climate and how we want to live and things like that. So, developing interiors that work around that is something we've really enjoyed over the last, half a decade.
Yeah. I must say, Hannah, definitely head over to Minosa's Instagram because you have some really beautiful examples. I know from looking through there where that's been done. And I must say, the kitchen I think you did in 2014 that you've had a lot of inquiries on as of late is a beautiful example of that. I think there's elements of, very sleek and minimalist and quite modern, yet it's got some through. So that's a great one. Josephine's question, thank you, Josephine, for adding something in, is what is the most comfortable kitchen bench height?
How high are you, Josephine?
Yeah.
Because it depends on how tall you are. Ergonomics is different for everybody. Like, the rule of thumb really is you should be able to stand at the sink and touch the bottom without bending your back. That should really be the rule. But it depends on, if you've got a 6'5" partner and you're 3'4", then, we need some height adjustment or something going on, don't we?
So ours tend to be anywhere from 9'10" to 9'30", 9'40", depending on,
depending on cooking style.
Yeah, and cooking style, of course. Like if you're cooking with an industrial looking
1.56.
1.56. Yeah, wow. Oh.
No,
that's me and Darren.
No, that's us too.
So
Yeah.
that's Darren and I. I've got a lovely step stool for certain parts of our kitchen. Don't worry about that.
No, I think with the heights, you've got to think about the one thing where it falls over the heights. Sink is definitely one thing. The preparation area is another. If you've got one person that's short and one person that's tall, invest in a really good, thick chopping board because it's something that's movable. And then the chopping board, let's say there's a 30 centimetre difference between the two of you. Get yourself a chopping board that's 150 or 180 mil high.
Yeah, like a
butcher's block, and it can move around. It's great for pastries. It's great for doing certain things. But then that just gives you flexibility between the two different heights. But the cooktop's really the area, isn't it? Hey?
So Josephine, we don't know how tall you are, but a thick chopping board may be your answer. I think can take away something from that. That's awesome. Next question we have is from Michael. Michael, thanks for submitting a question. He would like to know what are the latest kitchen material colour trends for 20 to 21.
Michael, I wouldn't have a clue, mate. We try not to focus on We try not to focus on trends. Yeah, we try not to think
But
about.
the trends, you see, so
Look, you can jump onto Dulux, if I'm allowed to mention.
Yeah.
They do a lovely colour forecast every year, and they have like 4 different trends that really cater to everybody, and that will give you a great starting point for inspiration, and you'll really get a feel for where
You could go.
In each of those trends.
Look, I think for us, Michael,
yeah.
the main thing that we try to focus on is people and place.
Yeah.
They're the 2 most important elements for us. And we try to work with people that want to live in their home for a long time. So therefore, you know, one of Simona's first questions with people is, what are your favourite colours? You know, husband and wife have generally got, or partners have got different ideas there. What are your personality colours? What are the colours that you love to be surrounded by, wear, look at, you know? And then we try to look at the contrast, the complement, the, you know, and how those can go together.
You know, existing furnishings, there's a lot of things that come into play when we're using.
But, you know, the one thing you've got to be very careful of there, Michael, with trends is that if you do something that's trendy, it's going to date. And in a short period, because the trend will change, and in a short period of time, it will look like it was done in circa something, you know. So, yeah, just be mindful of trends.
which leads us into our next question, which is our favorite word of the evening, trends. What do we trends in the kitchen? So I suppose more so design, but I think that really comes back into where we started off here talking about pandemic positive, which is a lovely little phrase that you've used, which, you know, open plan, we might see, you know, a shift in that.
I'll go first.
You go first.
I think one of the main trends that are really coming through now is technology in the kitchen.
Yeah,
people are really starting to focus on making their life easier. So there is, you know, a lot of touch screen happening. People are placing iPads in the kitchen, so fridges, you know, with reordering smart technology on them. So multifunctional tapware. So there's lots of technology happening in the kitchen. It's not just, you know, drawers and, you know, pull down bits and pieces anymore. It's, you know, even the materials are becoming nanotechnology. So
even the materials have a memory.
Yeah.
So I think if you take the dirty T word out of it and we say let's not go with the trend thing, we start thinking about, you know, what's happening or what's changing. For us, we're starting to do more and more kitchens that are hidden to a certain degree. So, you know, things like where ovens can go away. We've seen for quite some number of years now the fridge being integrated, you know, the dishwasher being fully integrated. Now we're even hiding ovens behind doors and appliance areas are behind doors, so that when the kitchen's closed, it's like a piece of joinery. Yeah, we did a kitchen for quite a famous person a few years back, and one of the greatest bits of advice she told us was, "I don't want to be reminded that I have to cook."
Yeah.
So she wanted her kitchen to be closed and not to be reminded of that. So
yeah.
And we've taken that on board a lot, and we try to hide some of those elements so that when it's the middle of the day or when you're finished and you're entertaining, it closes down.
Yeah, you don't feel burdened when you're in there. You know, your kitchen is often in an open plan environment. You don't want to sort of turn around and go, "Oh, I haven't done those dishes yet."
Yeah.
So it's
we like to conceal things. We like to conceal things. We hate the idea of butler's pantries. We know, sorry for all the people that have them or want them. And some of our clients that are watching want them. We're not a fan of the butler's pantry because who has a butler? So we try to bring most of the elements into the kitchen because, you know, we spent 100 odd years trying to get everybody out into the same space. Now all of a sudden over the last 10 or 15 years, there's been a real push to push people back into a cupboard to cook or to prepare and hide the mess. But if the kitchen was one big space and it had cupboards that opened and revealed things, then closed, then isn't that more sensible? Because we want to be around everybody. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think again that was a great sort of mention there of integrating things and creating a more seamless environment for during the day when you're not utilizing the kitchen. You know, we're doing homework, if we're working from home, socializing in the kitchen. So that's a lovely little tip there. Next question I have coming through is, Darren and Simona, what are your thoughts around marble behind the cooking area for a splashback? So a continuous run of bench top through to the back, which I have seen on a fair few of your projects.
Oh, look, you have to. For us, we always have a greater depth in bench tops, and
For multiple reasons.
For multiple reasons, and one of those is that our cooking, whether it be induction, gas, or electric, whatever the client has requested, is not close to the splashback. So yeah, most often we're within the certain requirements, technical requirements of that. What's that? The necessary requirements not to damage the marble.
But I think, look, if you love marble, you need to accept the fact that it's going to age, and in time it's going to change, and that's the draw of going to Italy, of Greece, all these countries that are built on marble. We love it when it's aged and old. But here in Australia, we sort of go, oh no, my marble's going to get damaged.
Yes,
but
nothing ever stays perfect.
You know what? How horrid would it be if everything was exactly the same 10 years down the track or 5 years down the track? You know, you've got to accept that with marble is that it's going to have age, and it's over time it's going to have more hits than the Beatles. But you've got to accept that it's going to have those stories that are behind it, and that's what makes a home is the stories that go with it. So you've got to accept that to a certain degree. You know.
And it depends on what the finish of the marble is too. There's polished marble, there's honed marble, there's leather, there's acid wash. Now they've got this wonderful coating that does amazing things at highlighting grain and texture in the marble. So, you know, that too will become an obsolete issue in time because, you know, the technology is getting there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there we go. That's some great little tips on a marble splashback. The next question that we have coming through from Bunny Sunday is that he's noticed a lot of rounded and curved edges coming through in kitchen design. And his question is, do you think that this is a timeless look, or is this something that is likely to date or still remain sort of, we don't want to say in trend, but favored 5 years?
I think personally, yeah, we love the rounded edge. I think edges are becoming more invisible. That's more the point, is that they're not as harsh as what they have been through a more minimalist sort of period. So I think, yeah, definitely rounded. Will it date? Yes, we all will. Everything will. The question is, though, really that if you do something well, it's considered, it's thought about, and it's measured, then yes, it'll still look really gorgeous in a long period of time.
Yeah, you don't do a curve just for the sake of doing a curve.
Yeah, the curve has to be relative. There has to be some reason for it. You can't just go, I'm just going to put a curve on there because it's trendy.
Yeah, architecturally, if you've got this very lineal, you know, high tech home, you're not going to introduce curve in the kitchen just because. So yeah, it's got to be well considered.
Yeah.
Well,
like every design choice, just considered.
Yeah. And there is, if you'd like some inspiration of that, there's some beautiful curves I have noticed in some of your recent work. So head over to Minosa's Instagram to have a look at that. Now, I think this next question from House and Holiday is related to our comments about how technology is, you know, becoming more and more integrated into our kitchens, and hopefully soon we'll get a notification saying that we've run out of milk, so we have no milk for that cup of tea or coffee. But are cupboard doors automated? Are you working with joinery that, you know, the sort of automatic push close and things like that? But what other experience have you had with?
No, definitely now there's automation through electrics. Not automated in the sense of iPad control and things, but there is some of that. I'll touch on that in a second. Firstly, we've got to think about electrics and electronic opening. There is definitely that. You know, the Blooms, the Headix, the Grasses, these kind of companies, they're doing push to open, where you just touch the door or touch the drawer and it opens.
Remote control too.
Remote control, where you can press a button and they open. But you've got to think about the functionality of that. You know, it makes sense to have a bin cupboard electronically controlled because you've got your hands full of something. And instead of touching the cupboard to open it with dirty hands, this goes back to the whole COVID thing we're working on to now, is press with your knee, the drawer opens, you empty what you need to do, you push it closed with your knee and it's done. You know, hard to reach cupboards, you don't want doors that open this way. You know, you want doors that are going to open that way so that when you're working in the kitchen, there's no threat of hitting your head. Yeah. But one of the biggest things that we see happening at the moment is back to the question earlier about height changes. Is this whole ability to lift the kitchen and change its height or make things, you know, the most underused area of any kitchen is the splashback. you know, making something that can come up out of the bench top electronically. This is something that's happening. This is something that will, you know, the Jetsons are coming. We've been threatened by it for quite some time. They are coming. And you can control that with your iPad, or you can control that with your phone, or a touch button where it can lift up and then reveal all the herbs and spices and the oils and things like that. So, you know, things like that are happening.
Awesome, awesome. I definitely want one of those in my future dream kitchen. Sounds like it.
You can come and have a look at mine.
Yes. You mentioned that there is a beautiful render of Minosa's up and coming kitchen, which isn't built just yet, on their Instagram. So it's free to see what the designers are having for their dream home. Go and check it out. It's pretty awesome. The next question that we have coming through, thank you everyone, is what are some ways that I can maximize my small kitchen, maximize space in my small kitchen?
There's one word, and that's thought.
Thought, yeah.
Thought, and I think small kitchens are the best to work on because they challenge you the most, and decisions are easily made because you don't have the luxury of space. So you have to be prepared to sacrifice, but you have to apply thought.
Yeah, if you can, I think one of the main things would be to use as many drawers as possible, because that gives you access to 2 separate heights of a cupboard. So rather than having, you know, swinging doors that open out, and, you know, you put your plates in and then you've got all this dead space, if you opt for drawers, you've got dual zones, and you can fill them both.
And you could maximise the depth of a cupboard. So even back to Simona's earlier point, is that in a small kitchen, if you increase the bench top from 600, which gives you a 500 drawer runner, if you increase to 700, you get a 600 drawer runner, and very quickly you can increase your storage by 30%. Just by adding 100 mil to 3 drawers over a set period, you've done wonders for a small space. So consideration and thought is really the biggest thing for a small kitchen. Think about every single thing that you have in your kitchen, and make a home for it. And
get to know the fittings. You know, there's lots of new fittings that can go into overheads, into splashbacks, into drawers. We'll make great Orgaline inserts that, you know, help you organise. Yeah. So don't be afraid to accessorise with those things in a kitchen, especially a small one.
Great, yeah. So every little centimetre or millimetre for that matter counts. So wherever
it does.
And maybe a good opportunity to do some de-hoarding. I recently did that.
First and foremost.
That was one of my installation activities. So that always we had another question about the very popular curve. So Miri, thank you for your question. We did just go through this before. We certainly are seeing a lot of curves in kitchen design at the moment. I think that Simona and Darren might want to jump in here, but essentially, as long as they are well considered, that they are quite big fans of the curve look, as long as it has a purpose.
Yes, absolutely. It's got to have some kind of reference to the interior or everything else that's going on with the property.
And you've got to have the budget for it too.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's not cheap.
Yeah, curves are more expensive to do.
That's another thing to consider if the budget is in question. Next question that we have, thank you everybody, is what would you consider when, tips on if hygiene is top of mind when creating a kitchen, so surfaces that we can look at that may be more hygienic or easier to clean than others, potentially the sink.
Well, you can look at solid surface is very good. Some of them have what's called AB technology, so antibacterial technology, where it'll actually fight against those things. You just need to look for things that aren't porous, because anything that is porous can hold something inside under the surface, and then that can escape when you're rolling a pastry or you're doing something, cutting something on the bench top.
And then you've got materials like Phoenix now. It's a new Italian product, and that's this nanotechnology that is matte fingerless technology, and that's awesome. And that can be used horizontally, vertically.
You've got porcelain-based products that are 100% non-porous. So anything that's non-porous, don't go for something Yeah, don't go for something that is scratch proof or, you know, something a little bit porous. Look for the words that say non-porous. Yeah, because there's a lot of people on the market that say things that are this, that, or the other. You really go for the word non and porous. Put them together. That's what you need to aim for.
Awesome. And for anyone else that has questions on bench top finishes, head to our Instagram. We caught up with Darren recently and discussed all things benches, which might give some little words of advice. And then also what I wanted to chat to you guys about is, you know, obviously we're trying to create kitchens that are functional without compromise on aesthetics. And we're spending more and more time at home. How can we represent our personality and our lifestyle through our kitchen? For people at home that, you know, maybe on Pinterest or they're Googling or they're on Instagram and feel a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of content that is available to us, what is a good place to start in understanding sort of how to express who you are in your kitchen?
Jump onto Minosa's website.
No, you should start in one place, and that's at home. Yeah, so you should start at home, and you should start asking yourself the questions of how many people cook at once, how do we like to prepare food, how do we like to entertain, how do we shop, do we shop daily, do we shop weekly, do we shop monthly, do we shop every day, do we meal plan, do we do these kind of things? Because the answers to your style and your storage and your placement of appliances will answer themselves. All you need to do is analyze it enough to come up with the answer. It's one thing to look at pretty pictures, but a pretty picture isn't going to resolve all your issues.
Yeah.
You've got to basically write yourself a brief. Even Darren and I wrote our own brief for the kitchen. So we're not, you know, we're not any different to other people. You know, we're a couple. We've got young kids, so we've but, you know, as much as you can design something beautiful, really, the solution always has to come from the brief first.
I think
Once you have that, then look outwards for finishes, look outwards for style, but turn inwards first.
I think design, the greatest gift design can offer us is the exploration of idea and functionality, because when you explore that, then design is the destination. That's what happens. You know, you get this result that is aesthetically pleasing, that fits the homeowner, that functions to the people that are there. But you have to think about thought, you know, and we get asked all the time about the budget thing and so on. It's not about how much money you spend, it's how much time you spend. So if you spend more time thinking about it, then your design will be better in the end.
It'll reflect it.
The result will be better because you've thought about it, not spend money or thrown a heap of money at it. Because if you're rich, it doesn't mean you get the best results. You get something that's pretty.
It helps,
but you don't get something. You don't always get something that means something. And design should be all about, you know, solving problems, not necessarily just doing something because it looks great. You know, has to solve.
It should be fun. That's another thing too. I mean,
100%.
It should be cool, and you don't need to know where you want to start on day one. It's a process, and enjoy the journey. So
you know, I think the greatest thing there, Kate, that we can say to people is with your brief, you know, there is the must-haves, the would likes, and the I can do without. Yeah. So if you table those three things, and then you allow a creative, or if you're going to do it yourself, to come along. So you've got a must-have. If it can fit, I would like it. But if it doesn't fit, I can do without it. Yeah. So you've got to be honest with yourself.
Actually, that's a really good takeaway.
Yeah, it is.
For anyone starting out, that's probably the best way to start your brief.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm sure a lot of viewers would love that one. Now, I've had a couple of questions pop through, so before we'll wrap it up, we'll try and answer these ones. So I like this one. This was quite fun. What is the most unique request that you've ever had for a kitchen?
Oh, for a kitchen?
Think of any.
If it was a bathroom, I could give you a couple of really funny ones, but a kitchen.
I'm sure you Awful jobs. Give me this and the space is far too small. We'll do an episode 2 if we can't think of something now.
Yeah, we might have to do an episode 2. Yeah, I mean, the greatest challenge we've ever had is, you know, we have no budget, you can do whatever you want. That's the worst thing you could ever say to a creative, because it's, you know, we really need limitations, because it can really go somewhere. You know, I think it's really hard to think about.
But the outcome was wonderful.
Oh, 100%, 100%. It's really hard to think about the craziest. The craziest thing we've ever had.
Got something.
Would be, I want the island unit big enough so I can play table tennis on it.
Oh, I like that, inventive. And who would have known? Pandemic positive.
Pandemic positive.
Yeah.
Here we are. COVID. Yeah. All of a sudden, you've got an island unit that's 3.8 meters long by 1,500 millimeters wide, and away you go.
Love that. Brilliant, brilliant. Why not? I'm sure there's a lot of people at home that think, hey, that's a pretty cool idea. You never know, you might get more requests for that now.
We certainly made a table tennis table during our isolation. It's sitting proudly upstairs, and we all love playing it, so it's been wonderful.
Love it. Can be the daily exercise, hey?
Absolutely.
Okay, two more before we head off. How do you keep a sleek design and hide away all the small everyday appliances such as a toaster, a coffee machine, and everybody has a NutriBullet these days?
Bifold or pocket doors.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of it now, where doors that can fold and slide away. And that goes back to what we were saying. You know, the reason people want sculleries or butler's pantries these days is to put those appliances there. But for us, we don't like the idea where you've got to go into another room to prepare the pastry or to mix the cake or to do it. That should be done with everybody else. So why not have a cupboard that opens, the doors slide away, reveals a bench top, you can work in there, you can do what you need to do. Then when you need to close it, or the door slides or something. Yeah. There's so many mechanisms now that are really cool.
But also your drawer runners these days, they come with kilojoule ratings. So
kilograms.
Kilojoules. Sorry, that was the cooktop. I was working on cooktops this sorry, guys. So, you know, you've got 30 kilos, 50 kilos, 80 kilos. So depending on your appliance, you could probably actually just design a drawer that caters for all your small appliances. You've got non-slip matting these days, lay that down and quite, really you can actually just tuck them all in a drawer and...
Yeah. You just got to be thoughtful about how you've got to do it. You know, with sliding doors, you've got to think about, what things are you going to do inside of those cupboards, and then think about, one could be a breakfast station, one could be a preparation for baking, or one could be the kids' sandwiches. So you just got to think, depending on how big your space is, of what it is you want to tuck away. One could be the wine station. The biggest trend, going back to trends at the moment, actually what has been the biggest trend is the gin cupboard. The gin. We have never been asked for so many gin cupboards as we have in the last 4 months. Yeah.
Doesn't go gin cupboard. Of the beautiful house, the dumbbells and the weights and all that. I'm sure there's been a lot of that. Miri's jumped in again and asked, do you have a go-to company for pocket door hardware?
Yes, but it all depends on what you're doing. So Hafele have some really great products. Headache have some products for fold-away doors. Depending on weight, size, and what it is you're trying to hide. So you've really got to be careful about the capacity of the door, and you've got to be thoughtful about handles, because these doors slide away, and in order for them not to stick out too far.
Yeah, they're tricky.
They're very tricky. So we go to Hafele a lot for their doors and their folding systems, but there are a lot on the market, and it really depends on purpose, what it is you're trying to do.
So understanding what the use of the doors are before we decide how we're going to use it.
Yeah.
Joiner or designer can help distinguish the work best.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Well, that wraps up our conversation. Darren and Simone, so much for joining us. It's been awesome. And I think lots of people have gone away with a little pen and paper and have got some awesome little tricks and potentially their must-have kind of, what are they?
Their wood lights, and they can do without.
There we go. I think that's the number one for any home renovators. Thank you for joining us. Head over to Minosa's Instagram to see some of their beautiful projects. And of course, give them a follow, and our website for more content like this. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Thank you guys. Thank you everyone that took the time.
Everyone.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you. See you later.
Renos.